Are you new to wholesaling? Are these new wholesaling disclosure laws about to kill your business? If you're a real estate wholesaler, you've probably heard that most states are requiring you to disclose how much you're making on each deal. Sounds fair, right? But here's the problem. When sellers see that number, they often want a bigger cut, or even worse, they back out completely. So how do you work around these laws and still stay profitable? You use something called a double close. If you're not familiar, no worries. I'll break it down clearly, even if you're brand new to wholesale. A double close, or back-to-back closing, as some people refer to it, is when you buy a property and immediately resell it to your end buyer. Instead of assigning the contract like you might be familiar with, you actually take ownership of that property, at least for a few hours. The big advantage? The seller never needs to see your profit since there are two separate transactions. All right, here's how it works in a simple scenario. You lock up a contract, let's say for $200,000 with a seller. You have an end buyer ready to purchase that property at $250,000. Instead of assigning the contract, you use a double close lender to fund the $200,000 purchase. You briefly take ownership where you are the legal owner, and then you immediately sell it to your end buyer for $250,000. The lender charges you a fee of, let's say, 2%. So you pay $4,000, but that leaves you $46,000 in profit. Now, before you think this is a perfect solution, let's talk challenges. Finding a double close lender isn't always easy. Not every lender is comfortable funding a deal that lasts only a few hours. You need one who understands wholesaling and doesn't mind quick turnarounds. They also need to be familiar with the courses that title has to go through to close these transactions. Since you're technically buying and selling the property, you're paying closing costs twice. Your margins must cover both of these expenses. Now, sometimes that expense on the end buyer's portion can be covered if you've already negotiated those terms. Timing can also be tricky. If the first closing gets delayed, the second closing could unravel, risking your end buyer's commitment. Timing must be spot on. And let's not forget, resale risk. Just because you have a buyer lined up doesn't mean their financing is guaranteed. If they back out last minute, you could end up holding the property longer than expected. So yeah, the double close is a powerful tool, but you need to know when it makes sense and when it's not worth the hassle. One of my borrowers, let's call him Mark, came across these challenges we just had in mind. Let me show you my real client, how they overcame them and made a big profit. All right, so let's break down how this deal went. My borrower Mark found a property for $300,000. He lined up an end buyer at $380,000. He didn't want the seller knowing he was about to make $80,000 of profit on this, so he decided to use double closing. Here's how he did it. He closed up the first part of this transaction with a lender over here who brought in the $300,000. He then already had this end buyer over here who came in and was going to buy it for $380,000. Now, as this lender makes 2% on their loan, they actually ended up taking $6,000 for their closing costs. So now this wholesaler paid the $6,000 to me for my 2%. So he made $74,000 of profit on this deal. Now, this end buyer actually paid all closing costs. And so this $74,000 is what my wholesaler actually made on this deal. A $74,000 payday is a great way to get this deal done, where he may have lost it if he would have had to tell the buyer about how much he was making. But this leads us to the big question: how do you actually get a double close lender to say yes? Because without the right lender, the strategy won't work. Since I have funded these regularly, the biggest tip I can give, the inside scoop, is first, don't wait until the last minute to find your lender. Make sure you have your initial lender and your second lender ready to go before you move along. You also need to find a title company that funds these and is familiar with the structure. And you need to find that end buyer who's ready to lock up your deal. This way, when you lock up your deal, you're not scrambling for funding. You're not wondering why you're getting turned down. You're not having to call title companies to try to find one who will actually work with you. Lenders aren't just looking at the deal, they're also looking at you. If they don't know you, they'll ask more questions, they'll take longer to approve, they might even just say no. The move is to build that relationship before you need funds. Reach out early, introduce yourself, and ask what they need to see to make your deal happen. This way, when the time comes, they already trust you. Second, present the deal like a pro. If you're unprepared, a lender assumes the worst. Keep it simple. What's the purchase price? What's the resale price? What's the timeline? Who is the title company you are working with? How many of these have you actually able to close on? Also, secure a solid end buyer. No buyer means higher risk. The lenders don't like unnecessary risk. Additionally, choose an investor-friendly title company, familiar with double closes. And finally, know your costs up front. Lenders typically charge between 1.5% to upwards of 3% on these type of deals. But fees can be negotiated, especially if you bring repeat business. Always ask for a clear fee breakdown. Avoid any kind of hidden expenses. Know what your bottom dollar is going to be and who's covering closing costs. These are questions you don't want to wait until the last minute to get answered. If your lender sees you're bringing them repeat business, they'll work with you on the fees. Just always ask for a full breakdown up front. Some lenders tack on extra costs, and if you don't catch it, you're leaving money on the table. At the end of the day, the best wholesalers don't just think about their own profit. They think about the structure of the deal so that everyone, the seller, the buyer, and the lender, wins. Do that and you'll never struggle to find funding. For many wholesalers, the double close is the best way to keep deals moving while staying compliant with these new laws. You get to keep your profit private, but you need the right lender, a solid plan, and a little bit of experience to do it right. If you found this helpful, hit that like button. It helps more people find this information. And if you want no more BS real estate investing strategies, make sure to subscribe and turn on that notification. This is Brett, helping you fund smarter and grow faster. See you on the next deal.